The Finches knew Mrs. Dubose to be a rude and irritable woman. As Scout and Jem Finch walked past her porch, she started showering insults on them.
Good morning, Mrs. Dubose.
I can't believe it. The Finches are playing.
Stay calm, Scout. Be a gentleman.
You! Why are you wearing those overalls? You'll be waiting at the OK Cafe if you don't behave like a lady. Not only a Finch in the cafe, but one in the courthouse lawing for blacks. That's right, boy. Your father's no better than the trash he works for.
Ah! You have no right to talk about my father like that! Come on, Jem, let's go. She's sick.
Jim, could you come in here, please?
Yes, ma'am?
Jim, son, I don't have much time left, but the time I do have, I want to spend sober.
Mom, what am I to do without you?
You're a fine man. You will do fine. But you must be careful of the lesson of the Finches. Atticus Finch, he better stop trying to change things around here. They are a good family like us, but Atticus is representing a black man. This will ruin him. Jim, do whatever you want, but just don't turn out like those Finches.
I understand, Ma. I will not disappoint you. Jesse, come in here. I'll go call Dr. Reynolds. She's dying.
Mrs. Dubose died that day, but her son never forgot her last words about race.
Sir! Those black students are outside. They demand to be let in.
Let us in!
We're people too!
Dad, why don't you let those people in? Haven't you ever heard of the Civil Rights Act? No more segregation around here. Isn't that great?
No, son. You have to understand that laws like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act are bad. Black people shouldn't be allowed to have those rights, and we shouldn't be forced to live with them. Now that schools are being desegregated, I can't have you going to school with blacks. I'm sending you to an all-white private school.
Why?
Although Mr. Dubose did everything he could to keep his son away from blacks, his plan completely backfired. Every day after school, his son would go play with African Americans from the neighboring community. He learned new perspectives on civil rights that challenged his father's views.
Check it out. I don't know why my dad doesn't like what's going on with the civil rights movements and all.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people don't think black people should have any rights. It's just not fair.
Say, how about we go to the march this Saturday?
Yeah.
The two boys joined the march, but when Mr. Dubose found out his son had participated, he was furious.
What do you think you're doing? I've told you countless times, we don't like black people. Stop trying to change things around here.
Dad, I will not stop trying to change things around here. This world is becoming equal, and you know it. Black people are just as good as whites. This world is changing, and I will not be isolated from it because of you.
Stephen ran away from home to live with some friends in another city. He and those friends regularly went to convince other white people to accept blacks into their lives. His courage in doing so gained him respect among the African Americans of the city.
Equality for all. Equality for all. End racism now. End racism now. End racism now. Equality for all.
Equality for all. Equality for all.
Stephen's actions for equality earned him the respect of many people in the city. They convinced him to become a lawyer, and they pulled enough money for him to go to college and law school.
Today we'll be learning about civil rights legislature. Stephen, could you please present your report on the civil rights laws?
Well, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. It prohibited racial discrimination in hotels, restaurants, motels, and other institutions. For example, an owner of a diner could not prohibit black people from sitting and eating in the diner. It also forbid job discrimination based on race, and it encouraged the desegregation of public schools by the Department of Justice.
And could you explain the Voting Rights Act?
The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. It prohibited barriers to African Americans for the right to vote. For example, the KKK would be considered completely illegal, whereas in 1874 it was considered not illegal. Other barriers that are now prohibited are literary tests and other discriminatory restrictions.
Stephen excelled in law school and passed with top marks. He passed the bar exam on his first try and became a well-renowned lawyer in his state for many years after.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, may it please the court. 2 years ago, Mr. Bollinger, the president of the University of Michigan, was accused of favoring blacks over whites by exercising affirmative action. Although the precedent for this case, Regents of the University of California Versbach of 1978, clearly ruled in favor of affirmative action, we are still stuck here today. Why? Because Mr. Grutter, the plaintiff, feels that equality should be challenged. That Jefferson, when stating that all men are created equal, did not include blacks. I urge you to consider the evidence and rule that Mr. Grutter is mistaken. Though this case originated because of affirmative action, it has come to represent so much more. The hopes and dreams of financially challenged minorities. Thank you.
Rudder versus Bollinger was a landmark case in 2003 in which the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the affirmative action of the University of Michigan Law School, thanks to Stephen Dubose's admirable argument for the university. This case allowed schools to have the power to diversify their student bodies and have equal representation for all the races. The Dubose family represents a significant change in the mindset of the American people regarding race throughout the 20th century. Mrs. Dubose believed that blacks were inferior to whites, and she passed these ideals on to her son, Jim Dubose. Stephen Dubose broke this chain of racism and believed that blacks were in every way equal. His quarrels with his father showed the uneasy transition of all of America from the old segregationist ways to a brighter, equal future. In the end, Stephen changed the legacy of his family and was unique for his beliefs that challenged the values of his predecessors.